Right, we're going to start in the US and this show of unity that we've seen just in the last couple of hours between Japan and the US. Military cooperation between the two countries, top of the agenda. Of course, in the background, tensions with China, never far from the minds with, well, a number of Western governments. Right, let's take a look at what's been happening. There we go. President Biden is hosting Japan's Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida, there at the White House. There have been military guards of honour. There'll also be a state dinner in the next couple of hours. Now, the talks are part of the Biden administration's diplomatic efforts in Asia. There were recent war games in Seoul. And take a look at these pictures. This is the weekend. The US, Japan, Philippines and Australia held joint military exercises in the South China Sea. The Chinese military conducted combat patrols in the same area. And speaking a little earlier, President Biden said Japan, the US and Australia will together boost military capabilities, including through the creation of an air missile network. Biden said the upgrades were defensive in nature.
This is the most significant upgrade in our alliance since it was first established. I'm also pleased to announce that for the first time, Japan and the United States and Australia will create a network system of air, missile and defense architecture. We're also looking forward to standing up a trilateral military exercise with Japan and the United Kingdom. And our AUKUS defense partnership with Australia and the United Kingdom is exploring how Japan can join our work in the second pillar, which focuses on advanced capabilities, including AI, autonomous systems. All told, that represents a new benchmark for our military cooperation across a range of capabilities.
Right, let's speak to Mary McCarthy, Professor of Political Science, Drake University, specialising in Japan's domestic and foreign policies. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, there were lots of words that Joe Biden was just saying, trilateral capabilities, lots of other slightly jargony technical missile capabilities. Can you please attempt to explain that for us?
Well, I think to start off, we have to say that the meeting this week between Biden and Kishida, coming on the heels of these military exercises that were just mentioned, is extremely important. It is a signal to both domestic and international audiences. We know that one of the target audiences is certainly China. But it's not only China. It's the international system in general, as well as domestic audiences in the US and in Japan. And so I think that the second important thing to really highlight is that the announcements today are not coming out of nowhere, out of the blue. They are the culmination of months of hard work by the Biden and Kishida administrations, as well as the governments in Australia, in the Philippines, and elsewhere. And so this is...
Let's just focus on exactly that. The mention there of Australia, the mention of the UK. Britain will hold regular joint military exercises in the Indo-Pacific with the US and Japan from 2025 to boost security in the region. That's from the Ministry of Defence here in the UK. That role with Australia too, as well as Japan. Where does all this leave China?
So I think it has become increasingly clear that so-called like-minded states in the Asia-Pacific are cooperating and coordinating more closely, certainly on defense and security, but also on what is now called economic security, resilient supply chains, closer economic relationships. And we see Japan and Australia both taking clear steps to be in lockstep with the US with regard to its position in the Asia-Pacific and seeing China today as a strategic challenge or perhaps even a strategic threat. Whereas previously there was a lot more efforts on the part of Japan and Australia to enhance the partnership elements of their relationships with China.
Yeah, lots of political discourse based around the difference between the word challenge and threat. We haven't got time to go into that now because I want to talk about space. That was mentioned. Astronauts, US, Japan cooperation. Is this something we should read anything into?
It is. I think it represents two important elements of the US-Japan relationship. One is that the relationship is multifaceted. It is not only a security relationship. It is not only an economic relationship. There are so many issues on which the US and Japan are, should, and could be cooperating, and space is one. And the second important thing to keep in mind is that space is not something frivolous. It'll be great. The Japanese astronaut will be on the moon. Yes, that's wonderful. It will be exciting for the Japanese public to see. But it's really important to keep in mind that space is an element of international peace and security, and that US and Japan cooperating in space is also an element of their defense and security relationship.
OK, Mary McCarthy, thank you very much for coming on the programme. Thank you.
Thank you.